There we go.
Yes, I'm in.
How are you,
How's
Jillian?
it
Good
going?
morning. I'm doing great. How are
Good
you?
morning. I'm doing really, really good.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for taking the time this morning. Let me see here.
Yeah, definitely.
So I have my friend Jillian, who I met in Los Angeles this last weekend. Great to connect with you, Jillian. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yes, great to connect with you as well.
Awesome. So Jilly is over on Instagram at JungleJilly. You can follow her. She is teaching mindset and emotional mastery for empowered living. She does coaching, workshops, energy alignment, and so much more. We actually had a chance to sit down and break some bread together and share souls with the folks at the table. It was really neat. Jillian, what is empowered living? Because this is a central theme to what you do. So what is empowered living?
So empowered living is you can really give yourself permission to tap into the purpose that you were born for, right? We all are born into this world with a unique gift, a unique way to serve, to heal, and to impact others in really positive ways. And when we walk this path, our heart is full, our soul is aligned, and we're able to make the deepest kinds of human connections possible. Is when we really truly experience abundance. That's empowered living, is when we give ourselves permission to practice our purpose, our passion, when we give ourselves permission to stop being so hard on ourselves, when we give ourselves permission to refuse to align with any of the ridiculous, unattainable standards that society has set in place for us that trap us, right? The white picket fence, this ideal nuclear family, the quarterly bonus, the certain amount of vacation time, the promotional schedule. So for me, I truly believe that empowered living is knowing that you were born for a purpose greater than yourself and surrendering to that mission to serve.
Wow, that's incredible. Wow, that's phenomenal. So obviously, you captured some of the other questions I had for you. Why does that matter in this world? But so let's skip on that question because it's very clear. I get a sense, and we did have a little bit of conversation, but in what you said there's so much behind that. Why do we not give ourselves permission that you just mentioned? Why don't we do that?
Well, change is really uncomfortable. And often the people who cared for us and seem to care the most are parents, the people who would, butter our bread and make us sandwiches to take to school, and the teachers that were trying to make sure that we were on a road for success. Often those people come from backgrounds where they have these misleading ideals. And even though they're doing their best to guide us, they're still trapped in these limiting beliefs, right? When we limit ourselves, that's a form of settling. And because everyone else around us, like the good majority of people, you look around, it's scary to rise above that level of settling. It's scary to really try to take responsibility for your passion, right? To really say, I'm not going to give up until I'm doing something I love every single day. That's terrifying because you put so much of the pressure on yourself, right? But when we realize that it's our birthright, and we realize that when we move from the heart, everything will flow, that pressure comes off, right? So it's facing that discomfort of change head on that gives us the segue into empowered living. But fear is uncomfortable. We weren't taught by our parents and by our teachers how to deal with difficult emotions. We weren't taught how to transcend the stress, right? What do we see in the media? We see, drink this or eat that or Netflix binge, right? There are these normalized behaviors for dealing with stress, when in fact, learning how to sit alone with yourself and how to open your heart, that gives us the freedom to transcend those limiting beliefs that are trapping us, right? So we weren't taught how to deal with our emotions. We weren't taught how to really establish loving relationships and have deep human connection. We were taught to check boxes and pick a career path.
That's exactly right. Wow. So then in your email, you have the word movement, you have the word joy, you have the word love. And from I didn't know you at all. You didn't know me at all before we met at this experience in Los Angeles. And I've been fascinated, number one, by your Instagram. I'm new to Instagram. I've been consuming it for a few months, but it's been the platform I've actually been looking for because it doesn't have the static of political nonsense that Facebook tends to have and all this other these mechanisms of psychology that people tend to it's a lot easier. I guess maybe one way I can say it is that Instagram seems to allow folks who are clearer, perhaps, to connect with intention more readily and easily. So I connect with that, and I connect with you. So going back to my thought about your email, so I've loved seeing the colorful vibrance of movement that you share with everybody. So how do we get started, right? So like if I put myself, I've known yoga is empowering for years. In my particular schematic of my conditioning in my life, even though I'm athletic, and you know this because, and you're going to speak to this here, but you know, yoga isn't really modeled from a dominant male perspective, right? And so I know movement's important. I know yoga has powerful transformative opportunities, not just physically, but just to connect the mind, body, soul connection. How do we get started in connecting with movement? Because I love in your email, movement, joy, love. It's amazing how movement frees up not only the flow of lymphatic fluid and you know, oxygen and release of you know, toxins in our body, but like, where do we start when we want to discover, is there really something to movement, and how is movement going to affect my physiology and my spirit and my mind and clarity? Can you talk on those points?
100%, and that's a great question, and so many great points. Just you hit it all. So my email, Movement, Joy, Love, it encapsulates my motto, which is every day we should make space to move with joy and cultivate love. Now, yoga is great.
Wow.
But getting to a yoga class can be challenging. The drop-in rate for most studios is close to $20, $25 in some major cities. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there on YouTube that you can do, and you can find donation studios where it's like $5-10 a class. And I really do encourage people to go to a studio and find a teacher they connect with. That being said, if you go into a yoga class and you don't already have that foundation of the willingness, and you feel like you have a freedom of moving and expressing yourself, because it's very vulnerable. You feel very vulnerable going into a yoga class for the first time. You're bending over. You're doing downward dog and sticking your butt up in the air and reaching your arms in all these weird different ways. And luckily, the education system seems to be changing, and yoga is being introduced to people at a younger age. It's becoming more mainstream. But for those of us that didn't get to enjoy that kind of an upbringing, to start a movement practice, I would really recommend making a playlist of 2 to 3 songs that you love that spark movement. And in your kitchen or your living room or your bathroom or your shower, playing those songs and just trying to sink into it and allowing yourself to move with the music, even if it's just like moving your hand. And then do that daily or at least a few times a week, and trying to surrender more to the music every time, even starting laying down and like letting the music move you from your toes to the crown of your head, and just very slowly opening your body. Now, I say this because the type of movement I'm describing is basically like dancing. And there's a few different ways that we can connect to source, right? That powerful energy that drives our life into the world of abundance. And so there are a few specific ways that you can connect with source energy. Dancing is one of them. Singing is another one. There are a few other ways. I won't get into them now. I want to focus on the question. But you really open yourself up, and you open up your subtle energetic body when you move in ways that feel joyful, that feel good. And when you're alone with yourself, you can start to build that confidence level that's going to allow you to go into a yoga class and rock it, whether you fall on your ass 3 times, whether you stay in child's pose the entire time, or whether you discover that you're just like a natural, amazing yogi.
Wow, that's phenomenal. I love the energy that you shared in that response. Why does it mean so much to you?
Yoga saved my life. Yeah, I was in a really toxic relationship. So really quick background story. When my mom got pregnant with me, I was a surprise. And anyone who was a surprise, your parents have a few different ways they can react, but my mom, you could always sort of tell, like, she did not want to be pregnant with me. And I found out from my dad 2 years ago that she was actually a very angry pregnant woman and would curse me while I was in her belly. Now think about that, and so much research is coming out proving this. So what happened is that this energy surrounded me in utero. And when I was born, it was also very frustrating for her. She lost her job shortly after. So even though I was an infant, she blamed me for massive chaos and stress in her life. So that's the energy I was born into. And then when my parents got divorced, her first boyfriend after my dad was a pedophile. And what went on between us was not textbook, but it was highly inappropriate and highly soul damaging. And I had a lot of trauma on multiple levels as a teenager. I don't know how I did it, but I managed to get into one of the top schools in the country. So I'm in Sarasota, Florida. I came here to go to New College in 2005, and I graduated in 2009 with a degree in environmental studies. I'm very passionate about the environment. So it's finally getting to like a really good place of like understanding who I was. They had a great therapy program. I was getting more into movement. You know, I had a job. I was supporting myself. And then I fell in love with a man. And we were totally wrapped up in each other. That relationship eventually became abusive. I did marry him, and we were together for about 7 years. We had a beautiful baby boy. And I will preface this by saying, my son's father is the perfect father for him. I'm grateful for him every single day. It's just the way he and I worked together was an abusive relationship. And I stayed there. I chose to stay. So it wasn't until I really dove into yoga, which was right about halfway through my pregnancy, which was when my older brother actually was starting to really die from lung cancer. He was 36 when he passed. That it started opening up my mind, because yoga, the movements and the breathing, it connects you so deeply to the core of who you are, that I started waking up. I'm like, this is not how I want to live my life. This is not how I want to raise my son. Not in this home, not in this way. And when my brother died, yoga and breathing, I'm getting like choked up. It means so much to me. It was like all that kept me afloat. So yoga really saved my life, and it gave me permission to like see what this life is really about and realize I was meant for so much more than I was settling for. And that's why I'm so passionate about yoga. It was the launching pad for everything I'm doing in my life right now. And I'm so excited about everything that I'm doing.
I absolutely love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. You know,
Yes.
I'm struck by what you said. We only have a few more minutes together, but I'm struck by something that you said a minute ago when you talked about yoga and the vulnerability of going into a new place and moving in ways. You know, you bring up what you shared right now. You know, so I had a conversation with a very good friend of mine yesterday. The short story is that he shared vulnerability with me that has torn him spiritually, and little did I know that it's torn him this way for, years, decades. And of course, I'd reached out to him. I'm one of these folks that once we're friends, I'm going to reach out over time, because to me, the interaction is meaningful. And then there are people who they're in love with the fantasy of a relationship that doesn't require interaction and honestly is somewhat dysfunctional. And so, you know, I connected with this morning with the vulnerability of giving. What I'm in love with is we sat at that table in Los Angeles after this wonderful, incredible, phenomenal light-giving and life-giving conference with people who are not only successful in terms of financial, but, you know, that's all secondary, right? Because, you know, what we do, we were connected through business, but we have an opportunity, like you had said in your relationship, you chose to stay. You know, there are people that, you know, you said this, I remember this at dinner. It was so phenomenal. I loved it because I connected with everything you said in that, is that people are doing the best that they can. And one of the ladies who was sitting next to you was sort of perplexed by that, but I could see that impact of that statement maybe caused a bit of conflict in her consciousness. But that's absolutely true. People are doing the best that they can, right? And so I would love for you to share examples of the impact of your work that have had on your clients. What kind of empowerment, what kind of things have you seen, have you witnessed, and have they witnessed, and are they sharing in their lives with the work that you've helped guide them to connect with?
Yes, absolutely. I'm going to give you 3 examples. So Evie has been one of my students for the past 4 years. And when I met her, there was a moment where we were in the classroom, and I always hold space for any students that want to stay after class, especially if they've been having an emotional reaction. She has a past where she was in a wheelchair, so broken down, and the man she was married to at the time, very abusive man, literally wheeled her onto an airplane and said, figure it out, and left her with nothing. He abandoned her in her time of need. She slowly was bringing herself back up. After coming to my classes on a regular basis and really integrating the things that I would say and suggest and encourage her with, she has now pursued and is thriving as an embroidery artist. She makes beautiful pieces of art, and for the past 6 months, they've been featured in local art shows. She started her own small business taking care of dogs, and I'm so humbled. She tags me regularly in things, and I sincerely love her. There's a video testimony from her on my YouTube page if you want to check it out. And then we have Summer. I met Summer in the fall of last year. She was in a very unhealthy, toxic relationship with this man who was a musician. They're really big in Europe. I'd never heard of them, but they have a huge following, semi-famous, and she was finding it really difficult to leave that relationship. We had a few sessions, and I was just like, look, this is what you can do to realize who you are. And she took some of my suggestions, which really, I'm just a facilitator. They wake up on their own. They're just ready to listen. They're just willing. It's that willingness to be a witness to your life that really causes that transformation. And she developed the confidence, and she saw herself, and she left that relationship. And she's now in a process of letting all the pieces fall, but she has hope. She's going through a really hard time right now, but she's out of that relationship, and she has hope, which is so important. Lastly, I'm going to tell you about Danielle. She's my longest standing private client. We've been working together for about 3 years. She went through 2 car accidents, and she fell down a flight of stairs in a very short amount of time. She had chronic pain. Her posture was really intense. She could never fully extend her legs in downward facing dog. After a few months of working together and then upkeeping, her chronic back pain is now gone, and she's able to have a workout regimen every single day, and she's thriving in a great job in Miami. I visited her recently for a session, and the apartment's really nice. I hope she invites me to visit soon.
That's phenomenal. Thank you for sharing those 3 examples of impact in life. I love that phrase that you used, a witness to their lives, a witness in their lives. So like, what does that mean?
Okay, so to be a witness, right? A lot of the times when we're dealing with intense emotions, right, which all of life is experiential learning. So it's experiences that cause intense emotions in these relationships that sort of define our life, right? So a lot of the time when we're thinking about them, trying to work through them, we get too close. We're too wrapped up in it. It's like there's this ball of string, the emotional event, this ball of string that's wrapped around us, right? So being a witness is kind of like imagining yourself in an empty movie theater and watching what happened on screen, and watching it with an open heart and a willingness to be compassionate and a willingness to take responsibility for your part in it and realize this is a learning experience. It's a teacher. Life happens for you, not to you. So being a witness is about, getting distance from what's going on. Being a witness is about understanding that everything is a learning experience and an opportunity to become a more true version of ourselves. And the thing is there's only ever a limited amount of any emotion. So when you can get some distance from it, you let it rise, you let it flow out, and then that newly freed space is space where something that's been begging to be born into your reality can gestate, and you can give birth to it.
Oh my gosh, this is incredible. What a blessing. Thank you so much. Our time is up here. Jillian, thank you so much for taking the time to share. For folks, if they want to follow you, the best connection is probably via Instagram. Is that right?
Yes, JungleJilly. Follow me and direct message me any questions you might have.
I absolutely love it. So what's really cool is she uses Linktree. So you can connect with Jillian there. You can request a session with her to discover, the best you. And Jillian, I thank you very much. My soul blesses you and thanks you. Thank you so much.
Right back at you. Namaste. My brother.
My sister in Florida. Thank you so much. Namaste. We'll talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.